I'm just saying, if you're Kyle Shanahan, if Trey Lance plays lights out this weekend, I'm just telling you, do not trade this guy. I just think it'd be a big mistake.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
I don't think that Peter King was talking out of two sides of his mouth, but there were two sides to the story. Peter says that, but it was like one of the very next questions when I said, what do you think Trey wants? Where do you think Trey wants to be? And he said, anywhere but San Francisco.
Right.
So, this like, I get it, I guess maybe a little bit more for the 49ers than for Trey. Terms of like, you made this investment, you'd hate to move on from him and have him flourish and all of that. But there is this dynamic that the Niners don't like. It is a distraction, make no mistake. We've all said, we've got a full board of calls right now. And for those of you who don't know what a call board looks like in radio, it's got the name, it's got your city, and then what you want to talk about. And it is Trey Lance, theory on Trey, and Trey Lance. So football teams don't want that. They do not want that kind of buzz around QB 3/4. So that's bad. Yes, they don't want to move on too early, but to me, that's a silly game to play when the player himself is going to be, let's call it what it is, held back if you keep him. So I've moved on from, this is, because by the way, if they got a third rounder in return, are you going to be like, oh, great job. You turned 8 draft picks into a third.
You'll take a third.
But you will, but
it's not. You would love to get a third.
But it's not a good return either.
But either way, it's a loss. The only way this is not a loss is if Trey somehow becomes the starter and plays well enough to get a second contract. That's the only way that this does not go down as a loss. And the chances of that are almost non-existent. Brock Purdy would have to come up missing. Sam Darnold would have to see ghosts. And then Trey Lance would have to quarterback this team to the NFC Championship game and then do it again next year and then get a second contract. At that point, we all would be like, you know what, Kyle? I want to apologize and stuff for criticizing you for moving up and stuff.
Okay.
To take Trey Lance.
Right.
You're talking about like a one. It's more than a 1 in a million. It's one
like
in 100 million.
Powerball. Exactly. So
I got my ticket right here. I'm in.
Do you?
Yeah.
Good luck to you, buddy.
I did my three-way today. One power, one mega.
Three-way today?
No.
Sorry. Go ahead.
You kind of stepped on it. It's kind of cool. $5, you get a mega, a power, and a super lotto.
Oh, okay. That's
two
fine.
and $1.
Only one of them is up over 300 million.
Doesn't matter. I want to win the $10 million.
I know. I love when people scoff. They're like, "Oh, it's only 50 million. I'm gonna wait until it's $1 billion." Okay, great. Like,
right.
Thank you. Anyway,
so I win 10 million, which means I get 5, and then I really get 2.5. I'll take it. I'll take it, dog.
So
that's a yes for me, dog.
So that dynamic you just laid out, I'm going to bet against that happening.
I am too.
Okay, so I'm failing to see the reason for Trey Lance to still be on the Niners. Yes, there is a way where it really blows up in your face. It's so incredibly unlikely. And
it's not that unlikely.
It really is.
What, for Brock Purdy to blow up in your face?
No, the concept we're talking about is you all agree that Trey Lance needs seasoning. And it can't get it here. Yet you're holding on to the idea that somehow he's going to pop out of bed one morning with no reps in practice at some point over the next 2 years. Brock will be hurt or turned out to not be good. And Trey, without any seasoning, is just going to pop out of bed and be amazeballs. I'm going to bet against that happening. That's the only scenario that makes it like pointful to keep him. No matter what, 3rd rounder, 6th rounder, whatever. It didn't work. Not for them, not for Trey.
Right.
And so there's very little motivation, I feel, to keep him on the roster.
Well, there's actually 2 motivations. One of them is you haven't gotten anything in return. And, we heard Minnesota, whisper, Minnesota wants to possibly, they tried to trade for him in the spring. Well, that got refuted. Minnesota has refuted that as fact.
Of course they have.
Right.
Who do you believe there?
Well, I believe that they didn't trade for him.
Only one side is motivated to lie, if 18 NFL
Right.
reporters said they were having talks and the Vikings said, no, we weren't, I'll take the reporter's side on that one.
That's fine, but the bottom line is they didn't offer anything that the Niners wanted to accept. So what would the Niners take right now, between now and Tuesday, if you think that they would take a 7th-round pick? And I don't think that they would, but let's just say for the sake of this conversation that they would take a 7th-round pick. Well, show me another team that wants to trade a 7th-round pick for Trey Lance. And short of that, I do think the Niners are motivated to keep a guy that they have not fully given up on, knowing that they might need him at some point.
I think because of the emotions in play here, what the Niners paid to get him, I think you're looking at a situation where the Niners probably don't want this to be simply Trey for a pick, because there's no way to make it look good. It's going to look terrible if it's a 7th or a 6th or even a 5th.
Sure.
It's going to look awful. I think it's much more likely that there maybe is another player involved. We wait for the final preseason games, which are taking place. Are they all tonight, tomorrow? When are there some Sunday? Whatever it is, I don't even know.
I'd say ask Randy, but he's on a one-statement losing streak.
No.
Give me a second.
No, he's good.
Give me a second.
I got it too. No, there are 2 other games tonight, and then yes, there are a bunch of games Saturday, and there's 1 on Sunday. But that's the Texans and the Saints, and neither one of them are trading for Trey Lance. So this basically comes down to Saturday. Saturday is when all of the players are done.
It's a Saturday.
You get to the end of Saturday, some of these teams now know we're not keeping this defensive lineman, and the Niners are like, we actually would like that defensive lineman because our cool defensive lineman hasn't shown up yet. And you do a player-for-player trade, and maybe somebody attaches, or they both attach a pick going in return. Maybe the Niners move up 30 spots and get a player in return. I would much more expect it to look like that.
I think you're right.
Because it's less sort of like psychologically damaging for the way it all looks.
Keep your eyes on the Niners tight ends is all I'm going to say, because
that is gross.
Well, yeah, Mark. Granny, you got any music for this next take?
That is absolutely inappropriate.
Because
what's going on here?
That's not how I watch football.
You know what's going on, Grandy? Is down there in Santa Clara, we got some tight ends.
I'd like you to now make your point.
George Kittle, that's a tight end right there. Charlie Warner.
All right.
I think it's tight.
Time to move on, Dibs.
Thank you.
It's a bit, Grandy. I was just getting loose.
I think it run its course.
They have 6 tight ends on the roster, and all 6 have shown in flashes to be really tight. Okay, those ends are tight.
I'm going to go to a call.
No, before you go to the phones, all I'm saying is if you're looking at a possible combo move, involving Trey Lance, the Niners have 6 tight ends. They're probably only going to keep 4, which means 2 of these tight ends who are going to land on a team anyway.
But you're attaching another player.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe.
It's Trey Lance and I won't say it, Grandy, but one of these players who happens to play outside of the tackle on the offensive line. Oh. It's 2 players for a better pick. A pick that a team actually would...
Maybe.
So maybe it's Lance and one of these individuals for a third.
I think there could be a player coming back to the 49ers is what I'm saying. I'm not saying attach a player and they all go to the other team.
I'm saying attach a player because your roster is already... Your roster is already chock full of guys that you want to keep.
I think it all feels better to people if this is not just Trey for a pick. Because then it's just this equal thing, and we can see the number right next to Trey, and it's like, geez, they got a 6th?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
What if it's Trey and Fumagalli for a pick? Because you know what he is.
He's a tight end.
Yeah, I can't.
All right, let's go. We're going to Mike.
Don't say that again.
Hey, Mike, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What you doing?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. Thanks for taking my call. I'm a little frazzled after that tight end bit.
Yeah,
sorry about that, Mike.
Me too, Mike.
Yeah, it's hot in here.
So I haven't heard this yet, and maybe I'm an idiot, but I wonder if Trey Lance and Bosa are somehow connected here, and that you could get, Dibs, I'm sorry, but what's the point of keeping a $9 million contract as your third QB? That's just too much money sitting on the sidelines. Could they get $9 million for him out in the market, and would that help them seal the deal and cover the gap with Bosa? I just wonder if those two things are connected, and maybe we'll see it all play out here slowly.
Wait, Mike, I want to make sure I'm clear on your question. When you say could they get $9 million for him out on the market, what do you mean by that?
Well, that's his contract, right? He's
Right.
$9 million right now.
Yeah, but you don't you understand you can't just there's dead cap money. So it's not like the Niners could just cut him and then they're like, cool, now we got $9 million to spend. They actually would lose. They would actually lose space if they were to cut Trey Lance. They would gain a little bit of space in a trade, but probably not until next year. Although that is also when Bosa's contract is going to get started. So could they be connected? Yes, in theory, but only at a small number and down the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was thinking on not the cut, but the trade. So, all right. Thanks for clearing that up, guys.
All right, Mike. Thanks.
Mike.
The trade would create a little space, as I understand it, on the 2024 cap. And
just a little bit.
And just a little bit.
It's $940,000 is his base.
Right. So, I think what you'd gain on the 2024 cap is something a little bit north of $5 million is what you would gain on next year's cap. But with
next year's cap, I think you gain the full $5 million, but this year you only gain less than $1 million.
If you trade him.
Correct.
Yeah. But so, and a number that we're talking like with Bosa, I have a hard time believing that would be some sort of a sticking point.
No, but it is room that you would want to have, knowing that that comes up the next year. And that's the other part of this trade, and this is why I think that you're going to, if you do trade Trey Lance, you're going to probably have to package another player with him because you're asking a team to pay him next year $10.8 million. That's his cap hit next year. So you're saying, take our quarterback who's QB3, who we don't really want, and he's going to be your backup for sure, and he's a project that you're going to have to deal with. And by the way, sorry about that. He comes with him $10.851,673 million.
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, there are certain teams where it makes sense because I think what we're leaving out is that these teams all had a first-round grade on this guy 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
And the reason Minnesota's coming up so much is not just because it's his hometown. That's not the way the NFL operates. He's from here, then sure, we'll take him. That's not how it works. The reason it makes sense for Minnesota is they may be quarterbackless next year. If they move on from Cousins, they have no prospects as far as who their next quarterback would be. So in theory, you've got whatever Kirk is making guaranteed, which I think is north of 40, right? Yeah, that's coming off of the books if he leaves. And yes, you may be in the market for a new QB, but you could have Trey Lance in your system for a year and see if that is an option.
Yeah.
Is that worth signing up for that $10 million to you? Maybe.
I
think
it becomes more attractive if I get something else with it, something that I could maybe use right now.
Maybe.
That's where I look at the Niners roster, and I'm not going to go all super cut down day. Larry Krueger joining us at 4:48, I believe, 4:45. So Larry can get into the machinations of who might be a cut down day casualty and how many of these players actually are going to be picked up elsewhere. Because I look at the roster and I see a lot of guys on the bubble who are NFL players. So if you're an NFL team looking at this roster and you're looking at Niners player 54, 55, 56, and you're thinking, boy, I'd love to get them, maybe you got to take Trey Lance with them in exchange for a fourth and a conditional 7th.
Yeah, I think that's what that's where my chip is. I think that's what we're looking at. Is you get through tonight's games, tomorrow's games, and teams are going to... Sunday's game, but actually, no, I X that out because those two teams are not Trey Lance destinations.
True.
It's Houston and New Orleans. So these teams get on the phone with one another, and it's like, okay, who are you cutting? Who are we cutting? Or who do they make sense for you? Right? This guy makes sense for you, and maybe there is something that can be worked out at that time. That'd be my best guess, and also suggests why we still sit here at 3:33 on Friday without a resolution and a plan to put him out on the field tonight. So
play him.
Play him.
Play that man his
That's
football.
Money. Exactly. JJ Castro Valley. Hey, JJ, you're on with Willie and Dibby. What's up?
Hey, fellas. I'm calling to help you see why they want to keep Trey Lance.
Okay.
Because you keep saying you're failing to see why.
Yeah. Please.
I got 2 words for you. Robbie Benson.
Okay.
From the great movie
You ever
One
seen
on
the movie
One.
Yeah, I'm not
Movie
convinced yet,
One-on-One.
but my ears are open.
No, it's a great movie.
They had to go to the end of the lineup. Robbie Benson was a highly regarded player who didn't get his chance, and once everybody got injured, they called him up. Brock Purdy is not Ben Roethlisberger, and Sam Darnold isn't very good. So should something happen to Brock, they need somebody who could step up.
Okay, so this is where this, for me,
1977,
JJ.
Mark, is a great movie. Robbie Benson, high school phenom, much like Trey Lance, went to college, and he got elbowed in the face in his first practice, and he had to fight back from that adversity.
Tough
and then
break.
he was ostracized and end of the bench, and didn't look like it was going to work out for Robbie Benson, young Robbie Benson, in that film. And then, come to find out, they needed him, Mark. That's all he's saying.
Yeah.
And you know what happened when Robbie got on the field, right?
What happened?
Buckets happened. Buckets. How old were you in 77?
2.
Yeah, you might have missed this. My sister was a big Robbie Benson
I
fan.
saw Star Wars 2 years later.
Whatever.
Yeah.
This was not Star Wars.
Here's where that argument falls flat for me, and I understand why people keep doing this, but do you all see the flaw in your logic? If the 49ers thought, I love it, they're going to need him to do what?
Quarterback.
If they thought he was good at that, he wouldn't be QB3. Today, I'm not interested in keeping Trey Lance around for in emergency break glass for this year because the Niners have already admitted they don't think he's going to be good at that this year. They're putting him behind Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. So I feel like fans are falling into this similar trap, which is he was the 3rd overall pick, so that automatically means he's going to be good at some point, which is so odd because Sam Darnold is your proof that it doesn't work that way, and thinking that if we get to QB3, Trey's going to come save the day. Based on what? Based on what? If we all agree he needs seasoning, we all agree that maybe he'll be good somewhere down the road, what has that got to do with this year? He can't get that seasoning between now and the week 8 where you all think they're going to need to throw him into the football game.
Halloween's the trade deadline.
Okay.
And
why is that?
He can get seasoning between now and next year.
I think
that's for sure.
In the offseason, maybe.
Or maybe in the season.
If it flows that way, but that would be accident, followed by surprising performance.
Or it could be lopsided matchup, blowout city, where you pop him into the game. If you're playing Arizona and you know that Arizona stinks, and you make him QB2 for that game, and you're up 28-3 late third quarter, and now entering the game, Trey Lance.
So he's 1 quarter away? He's 1 quarter of garbage time away?
That's seasoning.
He needs more than a quarter.
What's he getting tonight? It's basically glorified garbage time.
Correct.
But it's also seasoning.
And it's not going to lead to anything different than where we sit today. He's going to be the same guy when he goes to bed tonight that he is right now, which is not ready.
Which is a Niner, though.
Tonight, yeah. But I just, our minds, I think, are conditioned now after Brock Purdy to think like a Disney movie. I think are you all under the impression that if we get to QB3 this year, Trey's just going to come out and there's a cape on? And, oh my God. Da-da,
he's a former QB1.
Right.
He's a former starter.
Like it's going to look like it looks, which is not good enough.
Well, we don't know that.
I mean, if he's not going to play between now and then, it's a wild thought to think that he's just going to walk in there in emergency duty, week 8, and suddenly be awesome and become that guy. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible, but what a weird bet to make at the detriment of him and yourself for having to deal with all of this chatter between now and then.
I don't think that you're going to have to deal with the chatter. Once you get to, Monday, so Friday happens and Shanahan invariably will be asked in the postgame, hey, how'd you think Trey played? Did he make you rethink your decision to call Sam QB2? That question's coming.
That's coming tonight.
That's coming tonight. And then Saturday, by the time you get to next week, the stuff will start to die down because you're going to get ramped up for Pittsburgh. The questions are going to slowly ebb and flow away. So it doesn't become a distraction after Tuesday.
I respectfully disagree. He's the lead story now, and he's QB3.
But that's because the news is fresh.
Well, sure. But then again, we've been doing this all summer.
And now we have our answer.
This guy beat out, it got close, but he beat out Jordan Poole for most discussed name in Bay Area sports this summer. Most discussed. He beat out Shohei, Gabe, Farhan, Jordan,
Wilmer,
Draymond. Oh, Wilmer. Restaurant quality
Wilmer.
bat.
I mean, am I right?
Okay. But he beat them all out. This guy is a lightning rod. And what I don't understand is anyone who right now goes, you got to keep him because you're going to need him.
You might.
To do what?
He's your Geico. Shout out Guru.
He can't.
Are you familiar with the Limu, Emu, and Doug?
He's not separated himself from Brandon Allen in the mind of his head coach. So what is it you're going to need him to do, and how well is he going to do it if you do need it?
Well, he might be QB3.
He might.
He could do it the way he did it as a rookie when he came in against Houston and saved your damn season.
Oh, gosh.
Single-handedly.
Yeah, single-handedly.
Thank you,
One
Mark.
good half against the worst team in the NFL.
And what happened, Mark? Did they win that game?
They did.
And did they then go on to the playoffs in large part because of his heroic performance against Houston? I can't even keep a straight face. Ridiculous. On a non-payday Friday.
Let's go to Ian and Mark.
Sick of this guy. Help me, Ian.
Oh, sorry. Hey,
Set it straight.
Yeah, Ian, real quick, what's going on?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Better now, Ian. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, so I got two things real quick. I hear a lot of people calling into the station to suggest that Trey never got a shot. I've also heard there's a racial bias and Shanahan intentionally sabotaged his career. And so, anyways, I just thought I'd offer up this other, potentially crazy theory that he possibly is just maybe kind of stinks at football, at least right now. And then I also, amidst all the doom and gloom of this offseason and all this, I just want to remind everyone, we got a pretty good football team that's littered with all-pro talent on both sides of the ball. We got a kid that came in last year and for 8 games kind of unlocked that roster better than anybody we've seen so far. There's a lot to look forward to. This is going to be an awesome season of football, and the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. That's all I got. I just want to throw some positivity out there.
Yeah, Ian, thanks. I mean, all of that sits there, and we may get there. The season hasn't started. But if that's part of my point. If the 49ers want the focus where Ian's focus is, then they got a better shot at it if Trey Lance plays for another team. And I certainly think another team would be a better situation for Trey Lance.